You do the right thing, scheduling every inspection you can until your inbox is nothing but hundreds of automated, "Thank you for confirming your inspection. Sorry, you've been unsuccessful. Try again next time."
Confronting new numbers are shining a light on Melbourne's housing crisis.
We are in the grip of a rental and homeless crisis.
I just want my boys to grow up happy and healthy and know that they've got somewhere to sleep every night.
I'm an Aussie living in the US, and like a lot of expats, I dream about moving home one day. But messages like this and the headlines coming out of Australia make me stop and think, if I go back, what exactly am I going home to?
Entire families forced to live, can you believe this, in camper vans, cars and even tents.
Is this really today's Australia that I'm seeing from the other side of the world? The country I grew up in, where doing everything right no longer guarantees a roof over your head. And the voices that we just heard, they're far from alone. A confronting new report shows something that I can barely wrap my head around. 3 out of every 4 renting households in Australia are now in rental stress. That's almost 2.3 million households spending a crippling share of their income just to stay housed. Let that number sink in. Millions of homes where families are making impossible choices. Between paying rent and buying groceries, between keeping the lights on and buying school shoes for their kids.
How is it that we live in such a beautiful and privileged society and place in the world, and there are so many people without somewhere to live?
From over here, this isn't just a headline that I skim on my phone. This is a national crisis that is actively stopping me from moving home and thousands of other Aussies as well.
Sign today of just how dire it is for home buyers to try and break into the market. 4 Australian capital cities have been labelled impossibly unaffordable to buy in a new international study.
The great Australian dream, it used to be really simple. A home of your own. That's the dream that I was raised on and the one I always thought that I'd come back to. A place of safety, stability, a base to build a life. But for millions of people, that dream has curdled into constant anxiety. From thousands of miles away, I watch as life for my friends and family isn't about getting ahead anymore. It's just about hanging on. Quiet suburbs, busy cities, behind closed doors, families are being pushed to breaking point.
An urgent call tonight to help those in poverty as new figures reveal a soaring number of Australians living below the line. The high cost of housing remains the most significant driver of financial hardship.
Let's start where this crisis is hitting hardest, the rental market. It's not really a market anymore, it's a battlefield. Desperation is normal. Dignity is optional. Every time I look online for a place back home, I see it. Vacancy rates are sitting around 1% nationally and even lower in places like Perth and Adelaide, where my own family live. On paper, that's just a number, but in real life, it's a slam door. It's lining up with 100 other families for one pretty average looking place. It's trying to look presentable at an inspection while knowing your chances are almost zero of actually getting the place anyway. It's rental bidding, offering hundreds above the asking price, not for a better home, just for a chance. Affordability, who can actually rent? I've been reading the 2025 Rental Affordability Snapshot from Anglicare, and it's the bleakest report that they've ever released. For someone working full-time in Australia on minimum wage, less than 1% of rentals in the entire country are considered affordable. Imagine that. You work full-time, you do everything right, and out of tens of thousands of listings, almost none are suitable for you. If you're a parent on disability support pension, it's even worse. Basically nothing is affordable. And for someone on job seeker, out of more than 50,000 properties that they looked at, only 3 were affordable. 3. And all of them were single rooms in shared houses. At that point, the dream of a home isn't just out of reach, it's been completely extinguished for huge numbers of people. This pressure doesn't just empty bank accounts, it messes with people's minds. A safe, stable home isn't a luxury, it's the foundation for mental and physical health. From over here, I hear it in people's voices, the constant stress, The sleepless nights, the arguments, the shame.
If you want to live close to work and close to the CBD, it's just insane.
And there's not a lot out there at the moment, and it's so cutthroat. It's a tricky time. I think money is hard for everyone at the moment.
Housing stress is pouring petrol on already rising anxiety and depression. And it's not just renters. Even the people who did everything right, bought a home, followed the script, are now in serious mortgage stress.
2 households with a mortgage was left in the red last month, with new data revealing homeowners in our west and southwest are struggling to make ends meet.
Around 1 in 4 mortgage holders are considered at risk. They're cutting back on fresh food, healthcare, kids' activities, just to keep the bank off their backs. And for many, it doesn't feel like owning a home. It feels like serving a sentence. When that pressure finally becomes too much, the bottom falls out. On the last census night, more than 120,000 people in Australia were experiencing homelessness, and services say that number has gotten worse since. It's not just people sleeping rough in the CBD, it's mums living in cars with their kids, it's families packed into garages and overcrowded houses.
Soaring cost of rental properties and lack of supply means some Sydney workers are being forced to live on the streets despite being employed. Charities say the situation is the worst it's ever been.
And even when people do have 4 walls, they're often scared to complain. With no cause evictions and a brutal rental market, many just put up with mould, damp, unsafe conditions that are literally making people sick. So we have to ask the question, how do we get here? From where I'm sitting, trying to plan a life back home, a huge part of it comes down to something really basic: supply and demand. We just haven't been building enough homes for the number of people who need them. And over the past few years, Australia has had a record net overseas migration. Everyone who goes to Australia needs somewhere to live on day one. And that creates a sudden surge in demand, especially for rentals.
Rental madness has hit a new low, with an enclosed balcony in the city advertised for more than $350 a week.
Housing construction, on the other hand, is slow. It takes years to get new homes planned, approved, and actually built. So you end up with this massive gap between how many people need housing right now and how many homes actually exist. Even the government admits that there's a problem. They set a big target, 1.2 million new homes over 5 years. And on paper, that sounds promising, right? But in the first year, we already fell way behind. We needed 240,000 new homes built that year, and only 179,000 were built. That's almost 70,000 homes short in the first year alone. At this pace, we're on target to miss the target by hundreds of thousands of homes. From over here, when I see those numbers, it's hard not to feel like the message is, if you don't already have a foothold in the market, good luck, mate. And then you've got corporations buying up whole blocks of homes, sight unseen. How is a normal Aussie family supposed to compete with the billion-dollar companies that are out there doing this? And even when politicians say they're helping, the solutions often make things worse. Help to buy schemes, first home buyer grants, on paper, they sound awesome. But in reality, a lot of economists will tell you that they just pour petrol on the fire. They help people take on bigger debts, which pushes prices up again. Meanwhile, wages have been crawling along. Decades ago, an average income could realistically buy an average house. Now, house prices have gone through the roof and incomes haven't kept up.
In a crisis right now, because when you look at these property values, they're growing about 4 times the pace of wages. This is not good. We need solutions, and we need to be operating faster than what we are now.
Home ownership, which used to feel like a normal milestone, is turning into an inherited privilege. Between 1971 and 2021, home ownership for people aged 30 to 34 fell from around 65% to just 50%. That's our settling down years, the years we're meant to be building a base. Instead, we're quietly creating a generation of permanent renters, trapped in an insecure, brutal market with nothing like the stability that our parents and grandparents took for granted. So thinking about moving back into that reality, it honestly feels like trying to jump onto a very fast-moving train.
We know housing is expensive, but prices in Australia are now rising at their fastest rate in 4 years, with Sydney, Brisbane Adelaide and Perth hitting record highs.
Maybe the strangest part of all of this, watching from thousands of miles away, is how normal it seems to have become. From over here, it looks like a lot of people who are already secure in their homes have just shrugged. House prices hit insane levels, and instead of mass outrage, it becomes a dark joke at a barbecue. You swap stories, you laugh, someone says that's just how it is now, and the conversation moves on. For people who bought decades ago, the crisis can feel pretty distant. Their house value goes up and up on paper, and it's easy to see that as a win, a smart investment, without fully seeing what it's doing to the next generation. And that's where the empathy gap creeps in. Younger people get told to work harder or cut back on smashed avo, as if the problem is a lack of hustle, not a system that's completely changed the rules of the game. And that quiet acceptance is its own kind of failure. Because if a big chunk of the country is either benefiting from high prices or has just given up hoping for change, then there's really no pressure on our politicians to do anything brave to solve the problem. The policies don't shift. The market keeps operating like a casino. And the dream of a home slowly turns into something that you inherit, not something that you earn. For someone like me hoping to move back one day, that's the part that hurts the most. It's not just the prices, it's the feeling that this has all been allowed to become normal.
Things just move very quickly, like if you don't look at it within a couple of days and it's probably gone.
It feels like a war.
The stories are heartbreaking and the numbers are undeniable. And the trend is honestly terrifying. We've taken a basic human need, shelter, and turned it into a speculative asset. And it's ordinary Australian families who are paying the price.
If you're earning $100,000, and that's just a tick above average earnings, but it's about that ballpark, you can only afford about 10% of all Australian homes on the market.
A home should be safety and security. Instead, it's become a source of constant, gut-wrenching anxiety. And it's the fear of the next rent increase in your inbox. It's the dread every time the RBA announces interest rates. For hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of Australians, this isn't some abstract economic debate. It's a daily battle for survival and dignity. And for me, personally, it means being locked out of my own country. The question isn't, can I afford the Aussie dream anymore? It's, can I afford to come home at all? Any healthy society is built on the foundation of safe, secure housing. And right now in Australia, that foundation is cracking. And if we don't take this seriously, it's not just the housing market that collapses, it's trust, stability, and the basic idea that if you work hard, you can build a life. This isn't about hating investors or blaming migrants or resenting older homeowners. It's about admitting that the way that we've set this system up is hurting people badly and deciding that we can do better than this. Because behind every graph and every headline is someone lying awake at 3 a.m. wondering how long they can keep going. If any of this feels familiar to you, if you're an Aussie abroad who feels like you can't go home, or you're back in Australia feeling the pressure and the panic of this crisis, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments. I want this video to be a place where we can actually see each other, not just as statistics. And if you think these stories need to be heard, please share this video with a mate. Hit subscribe for more deep dives into the issues that are shaping everyday life for Aussies at home and abroad. Thanks for sticking with me through a heavy one. I'll see you in the next video. Hooroo, mateys.